Okay, so everyone's kind of talking about this show called Invincible. And what we want to express is how we feel like it's different from most shows, particularly hero TV shows. So the way we're going to organize this is that first we're going to talk about basic differences. Then we're going to get into more spoiler heavy differences. That way, if you haven't seen the show, we don't want to spoil a lot of the major secrets and impacts that make it completely different from a lot of your typical superhero shows. And then finally, we're going to have more predictions, which makes sense after the spoilers, to talk about what will happen next in the show. So I guess to start this off with one major difference it is from most superhero shows, and we also made a topic about it, is that this show is very, very, very bloody. Like, it almost makes the whole, like, when most people think, well, anime is all blood and gore, this show is like, we're trying to be at that level of blood and gore, So that's one difference you have, especially if you're used to more the cartoon superhero shows. So that's one thing I'll bring out. But what else you guys have with major difference you see from the typical superhero shows we've been watching?
I mean, I enjoyed one of the highlights of the show where obviously there's a lot of blood and gore for a reason. It's because they don't save everyone. So that's not a spoiler, but it's just that scene where like Mark couldn't save the people, and then it's like, okay, that's way more realistic than, say, something like Young Justice. I feel like it's easy to compare it to Young Justice just because
Yes,
we get some teenagers in the show, or at least like young adults or teenagers, and it's clear that some of them are used to it, but others, like Mark, when he's starting off, it's not the stuff that you usually get in a regular superhero show, because people die and he has to face the repercussions of that, which is not something we usually see in other stuff.
Yeah, not to mention there's similar voice actors. I know the voice actor of Aqualad is inside this show for sure. So he, I forgot that one. I feel bad I don't number that black superhero's name that's part of the group, but he's basically the same voice actor of Aqualad. So, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think that you guys touched on what the things that make this show much different from other typical superhero shows is it tries to attack the themes through a more realistic lens. And so, right, they don't save everybody, and they make mistakes that kind of have big consequences, because when you are essentially Superman and you make big mistakes, a lot of big problems could come out from that. And even I know we're not getting to spoilers yet, but there's one character who, in the typical trope of a superhero show, or even any show really, like, you're like, oh yeah, this is somebody who needs to be helped. But then while our main character wants to help this character, this other person who we don't like very much is telling him you probably shouldn't. And so we're immediately on our main character's side saying, like, yeah, you need to help this person. But then it doesn't turn out, the way that it typically would in any other normal superhero show. And so I think that it's definitely doing a good
I'm
job.
not exactly sure which one you're talking about. Why don't we just get into spoilers? Because I feel like
I mean, I did have some few points before he gets more into the details on that. Another thing about this show, and it's funny because this show is on Amazon Prime, where it's almost similar to The Boys, where it also has this humor to it, right? So they have this, like, dramatic, comedy in terms of, like, it's bloody, it's gory, it's very realistic, there's consequences. It's not just like, hey, I saved the person from a building. That person may have got blood from them, right? But at the same time, there's this humor to balance it out. And unlike The Boys, where the humor was more in terms of it was more making fun of, like, satirical things about American themes, like, superheroes being, like, basically these capitalistic products. This type of humor is more making fun of the tropes. Like, they literally, like, some of the villains will be, like, saying things like, oh, you expect me to do this? Well, blah, 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 blah. Or even one moment where, and I guess we will eventually start getting spoilers, where the main character goes outside of space, and the guy goes, so that's what happened to your place? Like, that's so screwed up. Like, it's like things like that, where they're self-aware of a lot of the hero tropes and themes, and they tend to, like, subvert them in ways where it's sort of like either for humor or sort of to show that there's a different dynamic. But I guess that being said, you know, go if you haven't seen the show. I definitely think you should check it out, especially if you like Young Justice or The Boys. I feel like it's kind of a mixture of both in some senses. But we're going to go into spoiler territories of what makes it completely different. So if you want to hear that, just we're giving you a warning right now. And OC Carrione with what exactly you were talking about.
Oh yeah, for sure. The whole storyline where Mark is trying to help Titan, and he like sees his family, and he's like, Titan's like, yeah, I'm just trying to help my family out, and Omni-Man is basically like, maybe you shouldn't help this guy take out the big kingpin, but Mark goes ahead with the plan, and he kind of gets tricked. Like he almost dies. And then at the end of the day, Titan was playing him the whole time. So I feel like in a typical show, Titan wouldn't have been the bad guy. Like he wouldn't have been this like evil mastermind. But that's something that Invincible did differently from what you would typically expect. And so,
yeah, and I think another big thing for me, at least, was the mystery aspect of it, because like. Throughout the entire show, we see that in the first episode, Omni-Man kills the Guardians. And then from there, we try to figure out why. I think a lot of people sort of predicted what would be like why, right? Like he's part of an invasion force for the Viltrumites and whatnot. To be honest, I was kind of disappointed by that. I was hoping for something more.
Yeah, it's your typical take over the world.
Yeah, I was really hoping for something more, because like they really hyped it up in terms of like, okay, this big reveal between the conversation between him and Mark.
Yeah,
and it's just like what we got was the basic. I'm just part of a race that's trying to take over the world. It's like the Saiyans or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. Basically,
like Frieza's empire. I don't know.
I as much as I didn't like that. I mean, it is sort of generic. It's funny because it kind of fits that whole discussion we had about the super syndrome and how it's like anytime you have superpowers, you have sort of that supremacy ideology. So it kind of fit that narrative where it's like these people are these super beings of abilities, and they feel that from their super beings ability, their job is to help everyone with their quote unquote superiority and something like that. So I felt it was, I mean, generic that's the motive. I did find the perspective a little bit interesting that it comes from, like, imagine a person like Superman having this framework of like, the reason why I'm going to save you guys is because you need my saving. You're kind of pathetic on your own. Like, you guys are just little children who need daddy to come in to help you. So that's a very, I thought it was an interesting perspective, despite the motive being something like, I want to take over, you know?
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's just, I wish they made it a bit more interesting and like added layers to it, just because I feel like it was an underlying thing throughout the entire show, and then they sort of like make us interested in it, you know? So I was hoping that they give us something a bit more less predictable, you know? But
yeah, I mean, to be fair, I felt like after, I forgot which episode, because the first time you're thinking about it, you're like, was maybe Omni-Man, you know, possessed, right? But I feel like after a certain episode, I realized this guy wasn't possessed. He genuinely just wanted.
I think I knew he wasn't possessed, like, from the beginning. Like, it just seemed obvious to me. Mm-hmm. So he had to have like a motive or a reason. Mm-hmm. And it would have been a lot more interesting if he were like actually a good guy, you know, in our perspective. Like, that's what I was hoping for. I was hoping for like, obviously not good in the sense that, you know, he killed them, that he can't take that back, but at least like have like a really good reason for it, like something we can empathize with almost. I was hoping for something like that, but no, it's fine.
Yeah, another thing I guess with the show that I also like that was different was I liked how Invincible's power level, because in some ways he's invincible, so on one hand he is like, you know, super strong, but on the other hand you do feel like, again, it's not like he's it's not, there's limits to his power, right? So you don't feel like you can see, you know, every moment he can die basically. You don't feel like he's always going to win. So I do like how a lot of times people who have those superpowers like that, like even you can even argue with the boys, the superheroes are technically the antagonists. I love how this show, even with the people who are the protagonists, you do feel like they could get killed any moment, which it's kind of shown with Omni-Man in the beginning of the series, destroying all these superheroes, showing that they're not just things that can, like, anybody here can die, even Omni-Man can die. So I do like that there's that sense of like stakes or consequences, and that there's
not invincible.
Yeah,
Invincible's not gonna die.
Well, you never know, man. Maybe they might clone him. You know, that's a possibility. He dies, and then this clone comes to life, because they joke around with the clone theory, which was another funny inside joke with the whole clones, where it's like, is I'm the real one? Are you the real one? Yeah. There's all these like philosophical things about, is cloning ethical or wrong or right, or how do you know, and what you use with cloning.
So at least for that one, what we see, what's his name again? The big blue
robot guy? Or
the big blue guy.
Oh, the big blue dude. Dang, I feel bad.
All he needs to do is remember which one he sat in, then he's good. Like, you know, like, okay, I sat on the right table. Obviously, I'm the original. It's just that obvious to me. Like, you just need to know your position, and you're good. But of course, mentally, they want to be the real one. Otherwise, issues arise from that. But still, it's so obvious. But yeah, the whole robot storyline was interesting for sure.
Yeah, definitely, because you'd think he was the whole time, to some degree, what he did was wrong, but he had sort of I guess you can say he had a good intent at the end, which was very interesting, because you would think that the whole time he was just going to be this complete, turn 180, he's just a complete evil person, 100%. And that's another thing what I love about the government dude too, like his whole thing where it's like, you know,
Cecil, yeah,
I thought he had a very also interesting perspective. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting characters, a lot of interesting perspectives with them. Definitely, I'm hoping, I guess we can go to predictions now, because I feel like now I want to see with the unique, what they want to do, the future of the unique stuff. So I'm hoping
before we head there, like, is there anything else you guys want to just like touch on in the show in general? Just because I'm curious to like what you guys thought about the overall series.
Overall, I very much enjoyed it. It was definitely fresh, in my opinion. It brings something new to this superhero genre that I think is necessary right now, and it's a really interesting take on the whole superhero mythos. So I'm really excited. I'm excited for the future of it and where it's going. You know, at the end we have the possibility of an impending Viltrumite attack. So
yeah. Well, we're getting to predictions now. So, but as for the relationship between Mark and Amber, yes. Between them, I feel like that was different. I feel like a lot of superhero shows generally don't highlight relationships that deeply.
I was when like at the end, it's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry that I got mad at you for being late a couple times, when you're literally dealing with murderous father and like having to witness the death of millions of people. It was just like, I don't know, it was funny to me.
Yeah, I kind of was like, why even have that fight to begin with? Because like, okay, she claimed that she knew, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. At some point, she already knew.
I don't think she did. Yeah. Because if she did, she wouldn't have gotten so mad at Mark at disappearing when the guy showed up. You know, when the robot crazy guy that killed himself showed up. Because like, Mark disappeared, and then she got so mad about that. But if she knew that he was a superhero, she would have made that connection right away. Yeah. So I think she's just either flat out lying, or something is wrong with the plot there.
Or maybe she's just so much in her emotions at that moment, she just didn't care. She was like, all right, too late, bud. But even then, I still feel like, I agree.
But why? Like, Mark literally went to save them. So she should not be mad at him whatsoever at that point. If she knew.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, that relationship, I guess that was an interesting dynamic where he reveals it and she's all like, I know, and I'm breaking up with you. And it's like, geez, man.
Yeah. But I What's up?
I was gonna say, oh, if you want to continue that tangent, because I was gonna actually bring up something else I remember that was completely different with this series.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna finish up by saying like I felt like the relationship could have been better, at least like just the way they played things out. Like I felt like it would have been way better if she didn't know, and that would have just made a lot more sense. But maybe she just said it and lied about it.
Yeah. Maybe she just was like, I don't care at that point. Like she was just so hurt in that moment. She didn't even care.
I'm kind of surprised Omni-Man didn't like go like find her and then kill her.
Where's Mark? Yeah.
I was half expecting that just because like.
Oh, that's true. That would have been an interesting dynamic where if she died and then he figured out he killed her and then that's the way. That would have been an interesting dynamic. But I guess you could also say that could be a little bit predictable or make Mark mad by that. I was gonna say that this show, I forgot, this show is actually like 43 something minutes, which is interesting because cartoons are usually like 20 or like half an hour.
Yeah,
so this show to be like a full kind of hour, it creates a different dynamic for the show. It makes it feel like it just makes it feel like it almost makes it feel like we're watching one of those DC animated movies, but it's like not fully length for each episode. So but it also makes the animation stand out even more. So when the animation's stiff, it's like, well, we're watching a 40-minute show. So how we can really stand out. But I think that also makes it different from a lot of these cartoons for sure. Because cartoons are always like half an hour and rarely are they long to that extent. So that's another thing about this show that is different. But as far as that, any other points before we get into predictions?
Well, overall, we all enjoyed the show, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely, I love the show. I was intrigued by it when I first saw the trailer, and then I kind of liked the idea. Like again, it was like, to me when I first saw it, I was thinking about The Boys. I was like, okay, they're doing this theme. Amazon Time is doing this theme where they have these superhero shows, but it's like it challenges our like happy ideals, and it's more gory.
I'm gonna be honest. I kind of wish you didn't tell me that. Like, because I was expecting stuff in the first episode when you told me that it's a mixture between The Boys and Young Justice.
Oh, okay.
Because like you really can't see that in the first episode whatsoever. It's like, how is this like similar to The Boys? It's not until the very end.
That's true, but I guess for me, I guess because I saw the trailer. So when you saw the trailer, it revealed the fact that it was going to be very gory, and it was going to be sort of this like, for me when I think of The Boys, I was thinking in terms of the goriness and also the sense of like there's the consequences to like what heroes do or that type of thing, and then that also there's sort of this humor side to it. So that's what I guess that's what I was making in Boys. I wasn't really thinking necessarily like these are actual like, you know, like I wasn't thinking in terms of like, you know, how the heroes in The Boys are like these supposed to be like capitalistic marketed things, and that technically they're using their powers for dickish things.
Yeah, I got you.
So I didn't mean it like that, but also I kind of knew Omni-Man was going to be sort of a problem later on because the trailers kind of indicate that as well. So I was going based off the trailer, but I can see what you mean where you watch it and you're like,
yeah,
okay.
I watched one trailer like a very long time ago, and it's pretty short. So I didn't know that they had like another trailer that like gave hints to it.
Yeah, they gave more hints.
I kind of wish they don't do that because like I get that, you know, they have to draw people in, but to give away like big plot points, I don't know.
I mean, in all fairness, the first episode I was kind of bored. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, because the way that it was set up with the animation on one hand, and then it was like, okay, yeah, because I was getting like very much Sky High vibes from it, but just like in cartoon form.
Yeah, like you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, Sky High was like a cool kids movie, and I don't know if I necessarily care about a cartoon version of Sky High. So I think it needed like that extra The Boys element to make it interesting. But yeah, in that first episode, I was definitely kind of bored, and if it was that way for the whole show, I probably wouldn't have watched. Or at least wouldn't have kept up with it as much. I might have caught up at some point, but yeah
exactly. And I can imagine if you didn't see after the ending credits, because even me when I first watched the show, I was like, literally I was about to say, okay, this was all right.
That scene wasn't in the ending credits. That was
the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was just the last 5 minutes. It wasn't like an ending credits scene or anything.
Well, before the scene even plays, they show like, you know, it shows the whole like ex-producer blah 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 thing, and then the scene plays after. So it's like Imagine you
really?
get that. Yeah, that's how the scene works. Like the show, it does after the scene, before the scene plays, it does the little, black credit scene, says this thing. And then right after, you see there's another scene. So
Do you want to go for predictions now?
I guess we could go over predictions, yeah.